The night holds a strange kind of quiet, the kind that presses against the chest like an unasked question. A lone car sits where the road narrows into darkness, its interior still warm, as if someone stepped out only moments ago. The air feels heavy, unsettled, carrying the echo of something unfinished. A phone lies on the seat, glowing softly, frozen on a map that ends in a smear of trees. There is no sign of struggle, no sign of peace, only absence, thick and waiting. Footsteps should mark the dirt, but the ground keeps its secrets, and just as the silence settles, a small detail inside the vehicle suggests that whoever left did not step out alone. Morning pushes through the trees with a pale, strained light, the kind that reveals more questions than answers. The empty space around the abandoned car feels colder than the night before, as though the air has been drained of warmth. Every detail seems placed with unsettling care. The unlocked doors, the quiet phone, the frozen map that refuses to update. Something about the emptiness feels intentional, like a message left by someone who expected to be followed. The forest holds its breath, the ground marked by hints that lead nowhere. What troubles everyone most is the feeling that the moment of disappearance wasn't rushed. It was chosen, shaped, and carried out with a purpose no one can yet understand. The search pushes deeper into the woods, each step adding to the tension that hangs between the trees. The chill slides along the ground, rising with every breath, as if the forest itself resists being disturbed. The trail narrows, twisting in ways that feel deliberate, like it's guiding them towards something unseen. The path shows only one set of impressions, spaced unevenly, suggesting uncertainty or hesitation. Nothing about the scene feels accidental. The silence grows heavier, settling on shoulders already burdened with doubt. Every snapped twig echoes too loudly. Every rustle feels like the start of an answer. But the deeper they go, the clearer it becomes that someone wanted this path to be found and followed. A deeper tension settles as they reach a bend in the trail, where the trees grow tighter together, forming a shadowed arch that feels almost ceremonial. The air grows colder, carrying a faint scent of damp earth and something metallic. A scrap of torn fabric flutters lightly, caught on a rough branch, swaying as though greeting them. It stands out too clearly to be natural, too placed to be random. The discovery sends an uneasy ripple through the group, raising more questions than answers. The world seems to narrow around this single detail, pressing in with silent urgency. What was she running from? Or worse, who walked behind her, close enough to tear what she wore? The trail widens abruptly into a small clearing where the trees fall back, giving space to a stillness that feels rehearsed. The forest floor shows signs of movement, pressed leaves, faint scuffs, and a strange circular mark as if someone set something heavy down. The air grows tighter, carrying the sense that whatever happened here ended quickly. No voices, no footprints heading out, only a pause in the earth that suggests a moment filled with fear or decision. The group senses they're standing at the last place she stopped of her own will. The question rises like a chill running up the spine. If this was her final moment of choice, what came next? Morning settles into the woods with a dim, washed-out color, bringing a cold clarity that makes every detail feel sharper and more accusing. The trail behind them seems to close in, as if the forest wants to keep its secrets hidden. The absence of new footprints deepens the unease, suggesting that whatever happened here ended long before anyone arrived. The frozen GPS location feels less like a clue and more like an anchor, pulling them toward contradictions they don't yet see. The silence carries a strange pulse, a reminder that the answers lie somewhere between the ordinary and the terrified. Each step forward feels like stepping into a story already in motion, one written by someone who planned every turn long before they reached it. The group moves toward the deeper trail, where the air thickens with damp soil and faint echoes that disappear as quickly as they come. The path bends unnaturally, as if the woods themselves were rearranged to guide someone away from help. Every sign suggests a planned route, one chosen with caution and intention. The deeper they go, the clearer the difference becomes between someone running and someone being led. The forest seems to watch, branches motionless, waiting for recognition. It feels like walking into a truth that refuses to soften. Something happened here that changed direction halfway through, a detail that keeps pressing at the back of their minds. Whatever they find next will determine whether this search is for hope or for closure. They reach a stretch where the ground softens, showing faint signs of a struggle, though not enough to explain everything missing. The impressions look incomplete, as if someone erased their own tracks with careful steps. The forest shifts in tone, carrying a faint metallic smell that does not belong to soil or trees. Suspicion grows heavier, settling like fog. The deeper they press, the more the clues feel like fragments of a story intentionally broken apart. The strange stillness seems to pull their focus toward a single direction, as though the forest is hinting at something buried beneath the quiet. Each step reinforces one unsettling truth. This was not just a disappearance. It was a controlled moment, shaped by someone who knew the woods too well. A faint breeze carries a whisper of distant movement, stirring unease through the group. The forest opens into a smaller clearing, marked by a thin arc of disturbed soil, as though someone dragged an object across it. The shape is too smooth to be random, too curved to be accidental. It feels like the remnant of something that was briefly set down, then taken again in a hurry. The quiet around them grows heavier, settling into a rhythm that hints at haste and fear. The realization arrives slowly. Whatever happened here didn't end naturally. It paused, and during that pause, something shifted. Either the person they're searching for changed direction, or someone else made that decision for them. The trail leads to a narrow slope marked by fresh scratches along the bark of several trees. The marks line up too cleanly, forming a path of desperation that cuts deeper than footprints ever could. It becomes clear that someone tried to move quickly, but not wildly. The pace was urgent, not panicked. That controlled fear tightens the atmosphere, pressing against every thought. The forest seems unwilling to reveal the next clue, but the signs show a steady pull downward, drawing them toward a darker stretch of woods. The question becomes heavier with every step. Did the missing person choose this descent? Or were they forced into it by someone who knew exactly how to guide them? Doubt settles heavier than the morning fog, as the search turns toward the people who should have felt safest in the missing woman's world. The forest fades behind them, replaced by sharp questions that linger like cold metal against the skin. Every detail gathered so far points not toward chance, but toward intention. An invisible hand shaping the path, long before anyone realized she was gone. The fragile timeline trembles under the weight of contradictions waiting to be exposed. Someone close to her hinted at truth. Something small enough to overlook, but powerful enough to steer everything off course. And now each conversation feels like a step across thin, cracking ice, where one wrong answer will reveal exactly who knew more than they dared admit. The conversation cuts deeper as stories unravel under pressure. Answers that once sounded steady now ring with thin cracks. A missing 10 minutes becomes a canyon in the timeline, impossible to ignore. The air thickens with quiet tension, the kind that grows when truth and fear stand shoulder to shoulder. Shadows from the window stretch across the room like silent witnesses. Every slight pause, every shift in posture, feels loaded with meaning. The sense of something hidden tightens like a rope pulled slowly, forcing everyone to wonder what else lies beneath the polished surface of practiced excuses. Trust becomes a delicate thread, one tug away from snapping. The focus shifts as new information pulls them toward inconsistencies buried in everyday routines. The smallest details now feel enormous. Who called first? Who arrived late? Who changed a story without realizing they had? A quiet tension grows thicker, pressing against the walls like a storm waiting to break. The sense that someone close understood the woods far too well settles uncomfortably across every thought. Each question feels heavier than the last, dragging new truths into the light. The search no longer feels like chasing a missing person. It feels like circling a lie crafted with careful hands. And the closer they get to the center, the colder the truth becomes. A quiet shift falls across the room as the weight of the new discovery pulls at every suspicion. The realization that someone prepared for a long night in the woods changes everything. The maps, the lantern, the notes scratched into a margin. They feel less like tools and more like steps in a plan that no one wanted to admit existed. The room hums with unspoken questions. Was this preparation innocent, or was it part of something more deliberate? The air grows colder, pressing against the throat like a warning. Every heartbeat seems to echo the same thought. Someone had been waiting for that moment in the woods, and they had been ready. The tension peaks as truths collide with fears that no one wanted to voice. The room feels smaller, the air thickening with the recognition that not all clues came from the missing woman's path. Some came from those who followed it. Every detail begins aligning into a shape that no one fully understands yet, but everyone feels the danger in. The silence grows sharper, setting nerves on edge. The question that rises now is no longer about where she went, but who guided the steps that led her there. And in that moment, the first clear crack appears in the story. Someone has been trying desperately to protect. The investigation shifts back toward the woods as new digital evidence throws every assumption into doubt. The message discovered in the phone's drafts lingers like a held breath, half-formed words pointing to a fear that was never spoken aloud. The atmosphere grows heavier as they retrace the path with fresh suspicion, aware now that nothing about the night followed the simple rhythm they first imagined. The torn fabric, once just a clue, becomes a warning the deeper they think about it. The forest feels changed, as if listening to their questions. And for the first time, the group realizes the truth may not lie in what happened, but in what someone wanted them to believe. Happened. The path through the woods feels eerily familiar, though they walk it now with different eyes. Details once ignored now pulse with significance. A scuffed rock, a bent stem, a quiet patch where sound seems swallowed whole. The unfinished message draws them deeper, its unsent words echoing through every thought. A sudden clarity settles. The missing person sensed danger before the final step, but chose silence rather than alert anyone. The forest tightens around them with each realization, as though guiding them toward a truth that does not want to be uncovered. Every subtle shift in the ground reminds them that this place holds two stories, the one told by evidence, and the one hidden between shadows. A sudden shift in the timeline turns the investigation sharply. A small detail in the draft message aligns perfectly with the torn fabric's location, creating a pattern that refuses to be ignored. It becomes clear that the missing woman wasn't just moving blindly through the woods. She was following something or someone deliberately. But the direction of her steps contradicts the earlier tracks, suggesting a sudden change in decision or a forced reroute. The discovery feels like a hidden chord beneath the noise, vibrating with a truth they have only glimpsed. The forest around them seems to shrink, as though the trees themselves know the secret no one has yet spoken aloud. A distant memory surfaces within the investigation, an echo from a long-closed case that never truly found resolution. The similarities grow too stark to dismiss. The same type of torn material, the same freeze in a GPS trip, the same quiet disappearance near a narrow service road. The weight of the past presses sharply against the present, as realizations stack like falling stones. The air grows colder, the silence deeper, as if the forest recognizes a story it has already lived through once. The group senses that the truth they chase now is older than they imagined, and perhaps far more intentional. A pattern is forming, and it is no accident. As the pattern sharpens, tension coils around the group like a tightening wire. The truth edges closer, revealing a web of movements too precise to be coincidence. Every clue now points toward a deliberate plan, a path designed with careful hands and hidden motives. What once looked like scattered evidence begins aligning with uncomfortable precision. The silence of the woods feels louder than voices, carrying weight that pushes against every step. The realization spreads slowly, but undeniably. Someone among them knew exactly how the night would unfold, and the final missing piece of the path lies just ahead, waiting to reveal the first clear glimpse of intent. The deeper section of the forest feels older than the rest, its silence shaped by shadows that gather like witnesses. The ground softens under each step, as if hiding something beneath its layers. A strange pattern emerges, faint depressions in the soil, broken twigs arranged almost purposefully, small details that pull them toward a narrow, hidden trail rarely used by anyone. The air grows colder, carrying the unsettling sense that someone once stood here for a long time, watching the path behind them. Every clue suggests the missing woman came this way, but the rhythm of her movement shifts sharply, as though she paused, listened, and changed direction in fear or recognition. The forest tightens around the realization. She was followed. The trail twists ahead, tighter and darker, as if carved only by those who know the woods too well. Each movement forward brings a growing certainty that this place held meaning long before the disappearance. The trees seem arranged in a silent circle, gathering around the clues like a quiet trial. A strange object, half buried beneath fallen branches, draws immediate attention. Something that doesn't belong to the forest at all. Its presence feels intentional, a breadcrumb left either as a signal or a warning. The tension thickens as they uncover it, each breath weighed by the fear that what they found is not just evidence, but the start of a truth they aren't prepared to confront. The discovery shifts the air immediately, replacing the quiet fear with something sharper and more deliberate. The object ties directly into the earlier pattern, too similar to an old case to ignore. A chill sweeps through the group as they realize this wasn't a spontaneous disappearance, but part of a sequence stretching far beyond one night. The forest feels suddenly crowded, every branch and shadow carrying the hint of a story repeated over years. The missing woman's path mirrors one once walked by someone else, someone whose truth was buried and left unresolved. The ground beneath them now holds more than footprints. It holds history returning with force. A quiet dread settles as they follow the narrow trail deeper toward the sound of distant water. The clues align in a way that feels almost scripted, each one leading cleanly to the next, as though laid out in advance. The forest thins just enough to reveal another set of impressions, fresh, faint, and unmistakably belonging to someone who knew where they were going. This was not wandering. It was movement with purpose. A heavy realization blooms. The missing woman might not have been running from danger, but toward a final attempt at escape. Yet something interrupted her path. Something that changed her last direction. And whatever that was, it waits just ahead. The trail ends at a narrow clearing where the trees bend away from a shallow ravine. The air feels charged, humming with a quiet energy that settles deep in the chest. Here, the earth shows signs of a moment interrupted, scattered leaves, a deeper indentation in the ground, and a faint drag that leads nowhere. This place feels final, not by choice, but by force. The truth circles just out of reach as fear and recognition blend into a single, heavy silence. For the first time, everyone senses that the missing woman reached this point alive, only to meet something, or someone, waiting in the dark. The final question tightens like a knot. What stopped her here? The truth begins to surface not as a sudden revelation, but as a slow, creeping realization that tightens with every step back toward the ravine. The weight of the clues presses down like a hand on the back of the neck, urging them to see what has been hidden in plain sight. The frozen GPS line, once dismissed as a signal error, now reveals a deliberate halt, a moment of stillness chosen, not forced. Each step echoes the possibility that the missing woman recognized someone in the dark, someone she never expected to see on that isolated road. The forest no longer feels like a maze. It feels like a stage prepared long before she arrived, where every detail was arranged with a chilling kind of precision. The forest feels heavier as they return to the narrow slope, guided by a new understanding of the path. What once appeared as scattered signs now merges into a single thread, woven with intention. A sudden change in direction, a pause in the footprints, a deeper indentation in the soil. Each fragment becomes a piece of a choice made under pressure. The missing woman's steps tell a story of hesitation followed by decisive movement, the kind born from recognizing a familiar threat. The air thickens with a silent warning, hinting at the presence she feared most. The truth is no longer a distant suspicion. It stands close, pressing against the edges of every thought, waiting to be spoken aloud. Something shifts in the investigation when the object found earlier is examined under fresh suspicion. Its placement, shape, and age match perfectly with the item from the unresolved case, a connection too precise to dismiss as coincidence. The realization sweeps across them like a cold current. The same person who orchestrated the earlier disappearance was present here as well. The forest seems to hold its breath as this truth settles. The echoes between the two cases grow louder, almost guiding them toward a single direction. The missing woman crossed paths with someone who had walked this story before, someone who knew exactly how to erase traces except for the ones they wanted found. The weight of the old case settles fully into the present as memories resurface. Details once overlooked now glowing like embers reignited. The parallels are undeniable. The same stillness before the disappearance, the same strange object left behind, the same silence afterward. The forest becomes less of a place and more of a blueprint, designed by someone who understood fear well enough to manipulate it. The truth presses in from all sides, refusing to be ignored. Each new comparison brings them closer to a revelation that will unravel every assumption they held. And beneath the growing clarity lies a darker realization. The one who repeated this pattern may still be watching. The final pieces fall into place with a clarity that chills the air. The pattern, once fragmented, forms a complete shape, one involving precise movements, strategic pauses, and a deliberate effort to guide the search rather than evade it. The missing woman didn't vanish into randomness. She stepped into a trap built long before that night. The truth hits with unmistakable force. The person responsible is not a shadowed stranger or distant threat. The clues point inward, toward someone who stood beside them on the path, someone who understood every inch of the woods. And as the realization spreads, the silence deepens, thick with the knowledge that the story is about to break open. The forest feels strangely still, as if holding its breath for what comes next. Every clue, every contradiction, every trembling moment of doubt gathers into a single direction that can no longer be ignored. The truth forms like a shape emerging from fog, something familiar yet twisted, something that feels both new and old at the same time. The path no longer looks like a trail of escape. It looks like a place chosen for its silence and distance. The weight of what happened presses against the air, thickening it until breathing feels difficult. And beneath that pressure lies a growing certainty. The final answer is no longer buried in the woods. It stands among them, waiting for someone to speak it aloud. The truth emerges not as a burst of clarity, but as a slow, suffocating realization, threading its way into every thought. The path makes sense now. The sudden stop, the shift in movement, the silence in the drafts. Someone she trusted met her in the dark, and trust turned into danger before she could warn anyone. The fragments of the night arranged themselves into a single, painful sequence. A meeting gone wrong, a confrontation twisted by fear, and a final attempt to flee. The forest holds the memory of it in every broken branch and disturbed leaf. The group feels the weight of that final moment pressing in, and the question becomes impossible to avoid. Who followed her into the dark with intentions they never planned to confess? The final threads snap into place as one detail rises above the rest. The moment of hesitation in the footprints, the sudden veer away from the main trail, the drag in the soil that didn't match a stranger's frantic attack. It all points toward a confrontation fueled by tangled emotions rather than premeditated violence. The realization sinks in painfully. The missing woman wasn't running from a faceless danger, but from someone who knew exactly how to reach her heart. The forest echoes with the weight of that truth, and silence settles over the group like a curtain falling between past and present. The moment has come when truth can no longer hide beneath panic or confusion. It stands tall, undeniable, and cold. When the truth finally leaves someone's lips, the forest seems to absorb it, swallowing the words into its roots. The confession is broken, tangled, filled with regret that comes too late to matter. It reveals a night shaped by jealousy, desperation, and a single moment of panic that unraveled everything. The missing woman tried to leave, tried to break free from a repeating cycle of fear, but trust betrayed her in the dark. The weight of that revelation settles over the clearing like falling ash. The silence afterward feels endless, heavy with the knowledge that a life was lost not to mystery, but to a familiar hand, unable to let go. And in that stillness, grief becomes a living thing. As the forest grows quiet again, the story reaches its final breath. The truth now lies uncovered, shaped not by shadows or haunting mystery, but by human fear and fractured emotion. The group stands in the clearing where the missing woman made her final choice, a place marked forever by the echo of her last steps. The weight of the case settles like a closing door. Yet, in the middle of the stillness, one detail lingers. The draft message she never sent, the words unsaid but sharp enough to reveal her final thought. That last unsent signal becomes the haunting truth that ties everything together, and the reminder that even in silence she tried to speak.